So in today's video, covering rare commodities, and we're going to be covering which systems you can use them, how they can be used, where to get them, kind of explaining what exactly rare commodities are, and how exactly the merits are calculated, and kind of give you an idea of about how much you can make. So we'll go over like what rare commodities are. So rare commodities are a little bit different than regular tradable commodities in that they are unique and can only be purchased at one particular spot within the entire galaxy. And so there are many different types of rare commodities, but each one only has one singular spot where it can be purchased. And another mechanic of rare commodities, which makes them different than anything else, is that when you purchase the rare commodities, the further you travel, the more profit and the higher the sale price is going to be, up to a maximum of 225 light years. Once you've passed 225 light years, you stop getting a price increase for the commodities. So they're unique in those two ways over any other commodity. You can only purchase them in one particular spot within the entire galaxy, and two is the price is not static. The sale price that you'll get is scales to the distance, and the BGS state of the system you sell it at has no impact on the sale price of that rare commodity. So meaning like the supply and demand. You know, sometimes with regular commodities, if you've done any bulk trading, you know that if you sell them at a system that has a high demand and is in boom, you're going to get a better price, versus if you sell it at a system that maybe is not in boom and doesn't have much of a demand, right? That's going to affect your final sale of your regular commodities. With rares, that has nothing to do with your sale price. It's just purely the distance you've traveled after you've purchased that rare commodity from the source of purchase and where you sell it. So I'm at a system here at Chernovsky City. It's the name of the station in Naguri. And this is a very popular rare commodity used for merit farming. And I want to kind of show you what they look like when you open up the commodities market. And then I'll bring you to Anara to show you the list of all of the rare commodities that exist in the game. So when we open up the commodities market, and you'll see this star symbol besides a commodity, and the fact that it has a yellow bar on it, right? Now again, I'm using the default HUD colors, so if you're using a modded HUD color, this could look differently to you. But this star beside it, this indicates this is a rare commodity. Now these Soontail relics here at Chernovsky City is the only place in the galaxy where you can purchase these. Outside of like a fleet carrier. Of course, if I purchase these, put them in my fleet carrier, I'll be able to sell them. But they would no longer function as a rare commodity if they're purchased anywhere other than here, right? And so, and these only spawn in at a small amount of time. So again, when I purchase these, you'll see now this rare commodity no longer exists on the buy option. So it only creates a single disbursement every 15 minutes, roughly around there, every 10 or 15 minutes. So with that in mind, if I sit here, it's not going to give me any more. I'd have to leave, go sell these where I'm going to go sell them, come back, and then they would respawn. Or if I got destroyed and then I lost them, I would have to sit here on the landing pad and wait for the next 15 minutes for them to to have the next disbursement again, for another 600 to be available to me. Now, if you have never seen rare commodities before and weren't sure where to find them, they would be very difficult to find just naturally traveling around in the galaxy. So the best way to find a list of all the rare commodities is to come to Anara. And when you're in Anara, if you come to data and then go to your commodities, and actually they have a whole category here specifically for rare commodities. You just click on that. Now this lists all of the rare commodities that are in the game. You know, there's quite a few of them. As you can see, the list goes on for quite a long time. And if we go to Seoul, that's just, a good reference point, and we search, you'll see now it tells you your distance. And this is what will calculate your amount of profit you will make from these rare commodities. Right, if you're doing these just for merits or whatever, or credits, I mean. The way that the merits are calculated, I'll cover here a little bit later in the video, but just for this section, I just wanted to show you, like, this is how you find all your rares, if you were to sure what they are. Again, this gives you the supply. And where it lists the supply, this means this is how much you'll get every time you pull them. And just like I demonstrated to you with the Soontails, once I bought the 600, they were no longer listed, right? And if you carry the maximum amount in your inventory, it will not generate any more for you. right? So even though I said they regenerate every 15 minutes, if I sat here on the landing pad for 15 more minutes, I'm not going to get another 600, or it's not going to spawn in for me, not until I leave. Some of you might be thinking, well, I'll just fill this into my carrier. I'll just fill my carrier full of 60,000 or 6,000 of these things, and then I'll go to the station where I want to deliver them and deliver them. Well, when it comes to merits, that doesn't work. Is when merits are calculated to make sure that the things were properly sourced, the game actually tracks the point of purchase. And so salvaged items and stuff don't count for merits. And as soon as you put something into a carrier's inventory, it is no longer calculated for merits. So if you're thinking about filling your carrier and then taking off to the system, say if you're in a system very far away and you're just going to deliver it all at once like you do with when you're bulk trading, that will not work. You will not earn merits from any of these things when you sell. So now I'll quickly go over how exactly rare commodities are used to affect power play and earn merits. So rares can only be used to earn merits and affect power play in acquisition systems or in systems that are already controlled by your power that you're trying to fortify. So they can be used in exploited systems, fortified systems, and you can use them in stronghold systems if you're trying to increase the level of stronghold, or in, like I said, acquisition systems. Now, I will link a video in the description below as to how I explain how the power play map actually works, so you can figure out which acquisition systems you're actually able to go to, because unoccupied systems, not all of them count as acquisition systems. So we'll refer a video to, or link to the video in the description below, which will help explain it to you, so you can make it easier for you to find appropriate systems for your power, right? So again, you can only use it in systems you're reinforcing or systems that you're acquiring or expanding your power into. Now, the distance from the system that you purchased these in matters, right? So the further you go away from the system that you purchased it in, the more of an impact you're going to have when you sell these for your power. Now, this is one of the better methods for reinforcing a system, because not every system is going to have options for mining. It's not going to have options for maybe good bounty hunting. And sometimes you're just going to have systems that just don't have a lot of other methods for expanding or reinforcing it, rather. But every system can accept rares regardless of where they are. Now, the one downside of rare commodities is it is a bit of a boom and bust method. It's super effective at times when you have a certain rare commodity which is really booming and really spawning in high numbers. But when the rare commodities are not in a boom state and are just spawning the average numbers, you can still use it. It's just not as effective. So this is a method which is sort of a boom and bust. And when it's booming, you want to take advantage of it and utilize while it's booming. And when it goes back into a bust state, it still can be used. It's just not going to be as effective as a method. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to calculate or explain exactly how the merits are calculated for when you're selling these rares. This will help you understand what kind of impact you're going to get and where to best utilize this method for your power and whatever systems you're trying to either reinforce or expand into. The main thing that's going to give you the best merits for this is distance from where you purchased the rares. So if you happen to be in systems that are right next to where this rare is being spawned in or being purchased from, it's not going to have the greatest impact for you. And where I'm purchasing these Soontail relics is from Naguri, which is the only system, again, where this rare can be purchased from. And I'm currently 222 light years away from it in the system. I'm going to demonstrate this to you. So I'm further than the maximum ceiling of profitability, right? Now that brings me to the second main point of how these are calculated, is the profit or the merits that you earn from selling the rares is not calculated by the actual profit. It's calculated by the total sell price. Now, obviously, the more profit you make is going to increase your total sell price. So I will show that to you here in the commodities market. So the way merits are calculated when you're selling rares is based on the total sell price, not total profit. But obviously, as you increase your profit, it's going to increase your total sell price, right? So if we go into Soontail relics and we go to sell this, and I'll sell this here shortly after I finish explaining this, this is my total profit, 13 million. but my total sell price is 23,829,000. And this number is actually what is going to be used to calculate the total merits I earn, not the profit. And I'll show you why this is important. So if we go to the galaxy map, and I'll just take my system name, and we'll go to Inara. Now that we're in Inara, I'll just enter my system search. Now this is going to recalculate my distances and profits and whatnot from the source, right? So now if we list this by total sell price, we'll see it's just calculating the amount of supply that's available to me if I purchase all that supply, and what if I sold it, what the total sell price would be. Now, the next closest thing is, these Suthis crystalline gold, and its profit's actually pretty close as well. This is the highest profit, but it's also the highest total dollar amount. When Soontel relics are not spawning at a huge number, when they're only spawning maybe 80 or 90, these will not necessarily be the highest profit. You might end up with another commodity which is actually more profitable. However, because Soontels are one of the more expensive relics things to purchase to begin with, that even if we have a lower profitability, your total sell price is still going to be so much higher, because you purchase them at a high price to begin with, and then whatever profit you do make from them, your total sell price is still going to be a big number. So if we were in a different system where these distances might change, maybe we're in a system that's kind of closer to Soontel, so our profit wouldn't be as high, but our total sell price would still be much higher than anything else, we're still going to end up with more merits, because the calculation is based on the total sell price, not the total profit. Now, Inara, and to some degree, doesn't calculate this 100% accurate. As you can see, I did enter the system correctly, and Inara is saying my total sell price should be 23,859,609. But when we come into the game and actually see what I'd be selling it from, it's just a very, very slight difference, right? This is saying 23,859,609, but in game. But when we're in game, it's just 23,829 flat, right? So there's a very slight difference in the way Inara calculates this and what's actually calculated in game. So now we'll go into the rest of the calculation. Now, the way that the merits are calculated is it's this base number, your total credits that are sold, divided by 1,000. So if we take the 23,829,000 and divide that by 1,000, we'd end up with 23,829 merits. That's the base value of merits you're going to get. Now that's going to get further affected by penalties or buffs, but in this case there is no further any buffs. So previous to a previous batch, we used to get a 5% plus merits earn for acquisition systems. That's now been taken away. Now it's just the base amount, right? So now, but if we were to sell to a fortified system, we're going to get this minus 35% merits. So we'd have that base number of 22,608, and then it would be that number would be debuffed by 35%. So to start off with, we'll sell here first, and now you'll see my amount of merits I got here. It's 23,828, right? Now dividing by 1,000 seems to be what's working for me. That's averaging for the merits earned. That's what I've been seeing has been fairly accurate. It came pretty close to that number. Now, if you are part of a power which has trade as its ethos, like Edmund Mahone or any of the other powers that have trade as an ethos, you'll actually get 50% more merits. So with that, you would have gotten closer to, say if we just round this off to 23,000 merits, you would have gotten 34,500 merits for the same transaction. So if you're a trade focused power, and you'll know if you're a trade focused power, because when you click on the list of activities, selling rare commodities will actually be on this list. Archer, the power I'm with, is not a trade focused power or combat focused power, so I get bonus merits for these activities, bounty hunting, hollow hawking, and stuff like that, right? Now, But if you are a trade focused power, you will actually see trade rare commodities on this list. And if you do that, you're going to get the 50% bonus. So you can make up to 34,000 merits from this method at the maximum range, right? Now, for fortified, again, we get hit by that 25%. So my initial credits earned, it was right around 23,000 merits at the maximum range. So then now we get debuffed here, if I were to sell them here, by that negative 35%. And the way you calculate that is you just multiply your number by 0.65. So if I were to sell those merits here in this system, I would only be making 14,950 merits versus the 23,000 merits that I did selling them here. So that's how your merits are calculated. Again, it's just by the total sell price, not by your profit earned. And it's roughly around 10,050-ish merits per, where you make roughly one merit per 10,050-ish credits and sell price. So what I sold it for, it's, from what I've seen, it's not the exact perfect number, but it's a pretty ballpark number if you're trying to calculate your impact here. And again, if you're part of a trade focused power, you're going to get the plus 50% as well. And I'll probably, when I do the final editing of this video, I'll include like a text breakdown showing exactly how it's calculated, so it's a little easier to follow along. So we'll just recap the calculation based on an example of the system that I sold to. So your total merits would be your total sell price divided by 1,000. So in my case, I was sell price of 23,829,000. So divided by 1,000, that gave me 23,829 merits. But now if you had the power trade bonus, so if you're part of Edmund Mahone or any of the other trade focused powers, you get an additional 50%. So then that would be your 23,829 multiplied by 1.5. I would have gotten 35,744 merits if I was part of a trade focused power. Now, when it comes to fortifying, so if you have the same distance, you're going to figure out whether or not it's going to be worth fortifying using this method. The way the merits are calculated for that is you take your base amount, whether you're a non-trade power or if you got the 50% bonus if you're part of a trade power, and then you would multiply that by 0.65. So then at the same distance, fortifying for me would have only given me 15,488 instead of the 23,000. And then if you're part of a trade power, you would have gotten 23,234 versus the higher amount if you were fortifying, right? The 35,000. So now with understanding how the merits are calculated, help you make a better decision as to whether or not you think the rares are worthwhile for you, depending on where your systems are relative to the rare commodities, whether or not it'll be a viable method for you. Or if you're planning on using this just to simply power level your power play just to get all your modules unlocked, then this would kind of give you the best idea of which systems you should be rolling it to for that purpose. Now, as far as the amount of merits per hour that you can make on this, really depends on the ship that you're using. If you want to be using a ship that has a very, very good jump range, so you can do the most amount of trips per hour. With my setup the way I have right now, coming to this Ross 987 system from Naguri where I'm purchasing these relics, I could probably do pretty close to 4 trips per hour. And then the 23,000 merits I'm making per trip, that would put me at about 92,000 merits per hour as like the maximum which I can make, going to the maximum distance for fortifying an acquisition system. Now, if you were part of a pledge to a power which has a trade ethos, you can ramp that up to around 140,000 credits per hour. Now that might seem like extreme, that might seem like something that's really heavily unbalanced for rares, but again, this is a boom and bust method. You're only going to be making these numbers very, very high when these particular rare Soontails are in a boom state where they're giving you like 600, 400, or any other like really high number. When the Soontails are not in a boom state, they spawn less than 100 at a time, so that number gets drastically reduced. So this method is very, very profitable for merits, for being able to influence your power, when it's in the boom state, and then for the rest of the time it's pretty much on par or even less than a lot of other methods. So I think that's what keeps it in balance. It's, you know, this isn't like something you can do every day of the week. You know, it's only for very short periods at a time when it's in boom, but when it is in boom, you want to jump on it. And these particular merits, or these soon tills, again, I'm going to upload this video today, but they actually just popped into a boom system state yesterday. So if you're watching this video, take advantage of it now, because it'll only be in this boom state where it's producing these high merits for about 4 or 5 days. And then if they're taking them, if they're really drawn out, if a lot of people are taking them, they'll run out of supply, right? And then once their supply runs out, then the amount that's available will just start to plummet again. So take advantage of this over the next few days. Fortify your systems, you know, set up your acquisition systems while it's available, because it will bust. It usually doesn't last more than 4 or 5 days. And again, like I said, I would jump on it, take advantage of it. And I think it's fairly balanced with the other methods because of the fact that it's a boom and bust method. It's not something you can do every day of the week.